So Bhagavad-géta teaches us how to live a good lifestyle that achieves the ultimate meaning and purpose of life. Since our childhood, we first come to know about the world. Then gradually in our boyhood, we increases our awareness about the world. In the youthhood, we try to manage the life, various expectations and various desires, and we run after all those, try to manage various lives of expectations, and gradually when we grows further, then the inclinations for spirituality and philosophical values develops, and that get mature as we grow further to old ages. That is the natural way that we aspire for various processes of knowledge systems or earnings or philosophical domain. How do we learn this life? From various aspects. We may learn from our parents in the early ages, that is called sanskara. Then we may learn from teachers, from the schools, and then gradually we may encounter various situations. We learn from various incidents, from friends, from even enemies, from many other peoples. While interacting with them, while facing challenges, we learn many things. We also learn when we faces some life challenges, some health challenges, then we go to doctors, we learn many things from them. We sometimes consult when we have some critical issues in deciding what is the best course of action. We may approach some Vedantist, some spiritualist. Sometimes you may approach some philosophers, and sometimes you may approach some psychiatrists. So these are the source of knowledge, especially we follow. If all these source of knowledge are very much directing towards the real meaning and purpose of life, then our life will be going in the right directions. But while getting knowledge from these various sources, if our life's goal is not towards the ultimate meaning and purpose, means what is that ultimate meaning and purpose? We discussed Sambandha Vijnana, knowing the relationship with God. How we will know our relationship with God? Why should we know the relationship with God? When we come to this point of understanding in a very logical and scientific framework, through the means of science, through the means of philosophy, and through the means of advanced values of human ethical values called as spirituality, then we will have a better understandings by combinations of science, philosophy and spirituality altogether, make this life's journey quite successful. In every steps we face many challenges. Bhagavad-géta was taught to address such challenges. Arjuna was facing the big challenge. There was a fight where he must fight to save his family from the tyranny of Kauravas headed by Duryodhana. So this tyranny is not only upon them, but the entire population was oppressed by so-called king. The whole world was burdened by many friends of Duryodhana. They were all oppressing this world. So it was a great need that the world must be freed from these oppressions. That's why Bhagavad-géta was very urgent for Arjuna to understand what is best course of action for him. Because one side, if he is not fighting, his family member will suffer. If he is fighting, then his own relatives, his grandfather Bhishma and his guru Dronacharya and his many friends and brothers, the wife of the brothers, their children, grandchildren, all will be killed in the war. They will be suffering. So the sufferings of the kinsmen is also the suffering of the persons. So like that, Arjuna has problem in all the sides. If he fight, there is problem. The problem is that he will have to lose family, relatives and all the people whom he loves. Similarly, if he is not fighting, then he will be deprived of the kingdom. They will have to roam in the jungle, and what was his duty to save the humanity from the oppressions will also not be fulfilled. Kshatriya has some duty to do. Then Arjuna has to weigh what is to do, what not is to do. So his thought was again on the basis of what I will gain, what I will not gain. So when again the thought is on the basis of the what is my profit, what is my loss, then it is not counting what is the profit of the whole mass, whole people, and what is the profit of, what is the loss of whole world. That is, so when we calculate at a higher goal, when we considering the ultimate good of many peoples around, then that is the better dharma. But when we just think about ourselves, then we may increase further our boundary to my family, then we may increase our boundary to our own village or city, state. Like that we keep so many eye and minds, gradually increasing little bit within the social framework. However, this selfish mentality is not good for getting ultimate happiness. The happiness that is coming through a selfish interest of personal sense enjoyment or the sense enjoyment of the people who are near and dear to me. So that concept is actually wrong. When Arjuna was thinking that I am a good person, I am a devotee, I can do austerity, and there is really pleasure actual being available in austerity, not in sense enjoyment. This concept was very well understood by Pandavas. They were very austere, and their journey in the jungle in Vanavas time, exile time, were all enjoyable. It is not that they were suffering, because of they are very austere in nature. There are two sources of happiness, as we discussed in earlier classes, that direct happiness, indirect happiness. The direct happiness is by giving the objects to the senses which are pleasurable to the senses, but these are temporary in nature and cause many side effects. That's why these happiness are not persistent happiness. The real happiness, even a person can get much more happiness, greater happiness in austerity, and the highest happiness one gets when he is connected to Supreme Personality of Godhead with a loving devotional service, because Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate treasure of unlimited happinesses, all kind of happiness, varieties of happiness, many rasas, madhurya rasa, vatshalya rasa, sakshya rasa, dasya rasa, and many other rasas are available in the relationship with God as bhakti, being a devotee. So this is very important, that devotees know that instead of getting personal sense comfort, if we keep ourselves more trained into tolerating the urges of the senses, then we can become happy. So urges are the real factor that causes disturbances. Desires and urges. When we have certain desires to get some things, then mind dwells in it. When senses are aggravated by that, that is called urges. Your mind may sometimes dwells in certain sense enjoyment until the senses give a very strong pull or push toward associating with this. That is not called urges. And wise person are there, even though they get urges, they are able to control it. So starting from contemplating on subject matters, by seeing, by hearing, by touching, or by smelling, or by tasting, we may get attracted or contemplate on various subjects to be associated with or to enjoy with. However, when our contemplations have a guidance through the process of austerity, we see what is good for us and what is not good for us. A wise living entity who is a devotee, he always chooses those things for taste, smells, vision and touch, as well as sometimes he may wish to go somewhere, sometimes he may wish to be associating with somebody. All these places will look, is it anukulyasya Krishna anusilanam. By this, is he able to please Krishna? That is the process of bhakti, and that is the wisest process. Those who are austere by nature, they do not undergo this kind of sense enjoyments, rather they prefer austerity. By the means of austerity and in a higher order of always thinking how Krishna can be pleased, they get much greater happiness. So such was the situation of Arjuna. He is devoted, he was austere, and there is no dearth of happiness from these sources of austerity or devotion for him. So it is not required by enjoying the kingdom that he can be happy. He knows that enjoying the kingdom can be a source of little happiness, but there are many side effects. However, when this can be done as a service, it is not subjected to the source of miseries. There are various miseries may come. Seva sukha dukha parama sampada nasai avidya dukha. Sometimes while doing some service, you may get happiness, you may get distresses. But when you are doing this for the service of the Lord, this happiness and distresses that is arising due to the service of the Lord while working for the pleasure of the Lord, whatever distresses you see, that is austerity, that also gives pleasure. Whatever happiness you get, that is the bliss, that is the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even though the austerities or the distresses we undergo are also the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that elevates our senses, that makes our sense be eligible to tolerate various factors and various grades of difficulties level being tolerated by the senses. So that difficulty no more become a difficulty but becomes pleasurable. So austerity is also the mercy of the Lord. That's why Kunti Maharani prayed that whenever difficult time comes, our mind always look after you, and whenever we are easygoing time, we may not think about you. So then he thought, Vipada Santu Saswat Tatra Tatra Jagat Guru. By this process of when we are getting again and again repeated sufferings, that we are remembering to you, and when we see you, Apuna Bhava Darshanam, when we see you, then there is no course of material associations. Otherwise, this material association is so strong, it always pulls us. Anyway, Arjuna was interested in more towards devotional and austerity kind of happiness. So then there was no desire for enjoying kingdom. So he was in dilemma now, that why should I kill my own kinsmen, my guru and my grandfather just to enjoy this happiness? Why should not I live upon begging or mendicants? So like that he was in dilemma. In both of the sides there was problems. That is called critical state, where we need a proper resolutions in the framework of the science of Bhagavad-géta. So Lord Krishna explained him Bhagavad-géta, where he will be able to resolve these problems. Karpanya dosa upahata svabhava pruchhami tam dharma samudha cheta. When this kind of situation occurs, that are explained by Arjuna that it is more due to miseries, miserly thought. What is miserly thought? Karpanya dosa. Miserly thought means when we don't want to execute certain activities because of thinking some personal interest. One person is not willing to spend money, he is desiring to keep his money in the bank account. He has a desire that his money being saved. So he is not willing to spend the money. He may be called as miser. Similarly, when one has something to do as a duty, but he is not willing to do that because of that will cause some discomfort to him or his family members or his relatives. So all I and mine concepts, that is also called miserly. Karpanya dosha. When Arjuna was facing this, so he is explaining that to Arjuna that Karpanya dosha upahata svabhava pruchhami tvam dharma samudha cheta. What is the right course of actions to do is called dharma. What is defined by Vedic literature, when we regard for whole people, whole world's, everyone's interest, then that is called greater dharma or the real dharma. When we think about our own body, sarira dharma, when we think about my family, etc., so sansara dharma, or when we see in a gradual greater mass like village, city, state, the samaj dharma. So these are various dharmas. When these dharmas classes among each other, that is called dharma samudha cheta. What is the right course of action to do? This situation comes many a time, that conflicts, and the resolution of these conflicts can be only happen when we have the true understanding about what is myself, what is this body, what is my relationship with this body, what is that I am doing, how should I have been acting, what are the different other things that could affect my life and how I can better my life. These inquiries need to be made, and there is certain world view that also need to be established. What is common, that can be very well taken through the common process of logical argument. Suppose this body has just a life of 70 years in the whole cosmic world of 100 billions of years, and my life is just 70 years. Is it doing some justice to the entire life, which is 100 billions of years of world total durations, and why my life is just 70 years? This certain logic is required, some scientific mind is required to understand this subject. So definitely, being an cosmic element where I live in the cosmos, I must have interactions in this cosmos, not just this 70 year or 80 year. I must have some life after this, and I had life before this. So that is the cosmic arrangement. When we have broadened thought of scientific and philosophical mind, then we will come to inquire this subject. So there was life before and there will be life before. That things were taught to Arjuna, that when we broaden our concept, when we think about this body is an instrument by using which we can do certain activities, and when this body is not there, then still we will have certain consciousness, we will have thoughts, and again we will have some mind, and with that we can desire certain things, and based on that we will go to a new body, and these things will go on, one body to another body. Jayate na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutta bhavitavana bhuyo. So there was never a time when we have not taken birth, we are always existing. Only this body is taking birth. With a new body we are taking birth, and once this body perishes, again we get new body. But who is staying in this body? Avinasi tu tad vidhi jena idam tatam. Who is living in this body is undestroyable, cannot be caught by weapons, can be dried by ether, cannot be burnt by fire. So like that, na kladanti apo, na sasayati maruta. So like that, living entity is always eternal and it cannot be destroyed by any of the weapons or fire, air, water, ether. That is why it is important that we must know that we are eternal souls and we cannot be destroyed. So then, na hanyati na hanyamane. So hanyati means no one can kill. And what can be killed is this body. So if we see that somebody is getting killed and someone is killing, so that is all the body but not to the actual persons. So killing the body is also sin. It is not that killing body is not sin. But when Arjuna is thinking that not to kill this body, it's not about sinful actions. It is about that his own kinsman will be killed. What is sin, what is not sin will be defined as the greater merit of the world. When killing opponent in the battlefield, those who are fighting for the dharma need to establish the dharma, so he can kill the opponent's enemies to establish dharma. And if he is not doing his duty to establish dharma, then that will incur sin. So here, when somebody is executing his dharma in the battlefield, he may be army personnel, he may be the government officials to protect the citizens, then his duty is to kill the enemies or the terrorists who are confronting and who are causing trouble. So that is not sin. In this way, the sin will not be defined whether by killing or not by killing. And also killing is not a killing in reality, because the soul cannot be killed, only the body is getting killed. Just like we changes the dresses after it got turned out, Mansasi Jinnani Jatha Vihayo Tatha Sarinani Naroparani. Just like we changes turn out dresses to new dresses, similarly living entity gets new dresses whenever like a body as a new dresses whenever the present body is not suitable to act.